students and viewers. Very warm once again in this video. This video is again on post-colonial literatures. I have already recorded one video on this, but that was of a little bit scholarly type. This one is for the BS students on whose level just an introductory type of overview of post-colonial literatures is to be given. So I have made an attempt to simplify it as much as possible. So therefore, we are entering here on Introduction to Post-Colonial Literatures. If we try to define post-colonial literature, it is like that. This is a literature written in English by the authors belonging to formerly colonized countries. This statement has a number of important words in it. For example, it's literature written in English, then colonized countries representing their voice, sometimes written by colonizer or political controversial and problematic. Let us take them one by one, that it is a literature written in English, not English literature. It's a literature written in English. So first thing, that post-colonial literature is the literature which is written in English language, but we cannot call it English because it is not written by any English person. It is written by the people who have been living in the countries who were colonized countries by the British or by the French or by the Spanish people. And these colonized people were not representing themselves. They have now tried to give voice to their own people, but they are giving voice in English language. That type of literature should be called post-colonial literature. It's basically the matter of representing the voice of their own people. I mean, they are trying to represent, but in a medium which is the sanctioned medium of the colonizing master. In this definition, we can also include the literature which has been written by the colonizer. So this can be mainly the literature written by the colonized people or by the colonizer. This literature is mostly political, it is controversial, it is problematic. So with these kind of ideas, we can enter into the introduction to the post-colonial literature, once again repeating the definition that this is the literature written in English by the authors, writers belonging to formerly colonized countries. Its background can be understood by these terms. For example, first of all, to understand what is colonial, pre-colonial, and post-colonial. So colonial is the time when British or the other colonizing powers were occupying the countries which were not belonging to them. They were independent countries, but the British or the other colonizers started to occupy them, converted them into their colonial. So that timing in which this kind of thing is going on may be called colonial times or colonialism. The time which was before this colonizing attitude or colonizing behavior, that time should be called pre-colonial. And after the British have gone back to their country, after leaving their colonies, just leaving their legacy, not themselves living there, that may be called as the post-colonial. So in this way, three stages of the colonial and pre-colonial and post-colonial can be established. When these terms become isms, I mean colonialism or imperialism, first of all, let us understand that the process with which the British thought, first of all, planned then, and executed that plan in order to occupy the weaker or lesser important countries, that plan, that kind of methodology or that kind of philosophy should be called as colonialism. This colonialism is based on imperialism, and that imperialism can be roughly defined as the desire to rule over the people. So first, it's a kind of philosophy, it's a kind of mental approach that you think yourself to be most powerful person, and you think that you deserve to rule over the people, and that is why you conquer them and try to establish your rule on them. This type of thinking and the planning which is made under this thinking is called as imperialism. The imperialist people are not simply the English people. There were the Arabs who colonized different parts of the world. Even India used to be the colony of the Arabs. Same was the case with the Greek people who conquered simply the story of Cleopatra is quite famous because she was Egyptian and the Greeks had conquered Egypt in order to make it colony. Same was the case with the Mughals, who were the people from Central Asia. They invaded India and many other parts of South Asia in order to colonize it, and then Europeans also. The European people include English and French mainly. Spanish and Brazilian people are also the people who established colonies all over the world. So there have been large number of people who were colonial or had the imperialist thinking, and they have been colonizing the weaker nations of the world. We have certain types in this colonial system. If we say that a country occupied by one colonial power is called as colony, then there are three types of colonies. One are the colonies where the British occupied, used its men and material, and after that, getting rich, went out of this colony. They left this colony on its own, just left the kind of legacies, I mean, the language, the literature, or even sometimes the constitution. This type of colony is the first colony. Second type of colony is that in which the British decided to live in order to continue to live there. They came, they invaded, and decided to live there. Such colonies are Australia, for example, then is Canada, for example, and then is America, for example, because these are the places where the British are still inhabiting and making it their own countries. And the third type of colony is the colony in which sharing of the power was done up to some extent. For example, South Africa is one of such colony in which British are living side by side, the black people, and some kind of sharing is going on. So in that way, there are some of the colonies, the types of the colonies. Some of these colonies are still paying some type of gifting or some type of other attention to the Queen of Britain people. So in that way, they are the members of Commonwealth countries. And after that, we can have one more concept to add into it, and that is decolonization. As I said, that one type of colony is that where the British came and ultimately they went away. That is called as the decolonization. So colonization is the arrival of the British people as a powerful force, and decolonization is the departure of the British people after having a rule of hundreds years, etc., especially at the time when the First World War and the Second World War were taking place. Post-colonial literatures can be found in all forms as the other literatures can be found. For example, in English literature and in American literature, you people have been well versed with the poetry, drama, novel, and short stories. Same is the case with post-colonial literature. Poetry is also there, drama and novel and short stories. However, as I said, that post-colonial literature is mostly political, and so novel has been the genre in which this type of discussion takes place in an open way, as Bakhtin would suggest that these things can be said very easily in novel. These things are have a type of difficulty in saying in poetry and drama, and so in that way it is the kind of situation where the post-colonial literature is having poetry. For example, in Pakistan, we have Tawfiq Rafat and Maniza Alvi. We have, Alamgir Hashmi. These people are the poets from Pakistan. Same is the case with the drama. Drama, for example, is the metaphor, is the drama from Pakistan, and some of the dramas written in the other areas, in diaspora as well, as it was the Domestic Crusaders, that was the drama written by Pakistani people. Then certain African dramas are also there. For example, Dream on the Monkey Mountain by Walcott. That's also one of the dramas in post-colonial literature. Novel in great numbers written. We can say that novel has become the most popular genre of literature, and that is why major part of post-colonial writings is on the novel. Short stories are also there, but not in that number as the novel is going to be. All this literature is the kind of representation of the people, but post-colonial literature cannot be called 100% representation of the colonized people. It is 50% the representation of the colonized people, and 50% it is the imitation of the master. But one way or the other, it represents the people. and therefore it goes to establish the binary opposition, that is colonizer and colonized, that on the one hand colonizer is there, after the slash we have the colonized, but every reader and viewer must understand that the left side of the slash is most of the time powerful. So here also this binary opposition goes to suggest that colonizer is more powerful and colonized is not, and the post-colonial literature goes to highlight this thing again and again. Post-colonial literature can be found in English in Africa, that can be called African literature in English, or Canadian literature in English, or South Asian literature in English, or American literature in English. All is the part and parcel or different kind of complements of post-colonial literature. Some of the important people who have established this field must be discussed before going further. So let us know something about the critics and theorists of post-colonial literature. First of all, as I said in the last slide also, it's a matter of binary opposition. This matter was presented by Edward Said in his book Orientalism. And the big critic of post-colonial literature and theorist is Homi Bhabha. He presented the concept of hybridity, which occurs at that time when two cultures collide together and a third, culture comes up, which is a hybrid culture, not the pure one. Same is the case with Gayatri Sepevek, who gave the concept of subaltern and put the question, can the subaltern speak? No, subaltern is the weakest person in any organization. He has to listen only, cannot speak. So she puts the question, can the subaltern speak? And these days the critics and theorists have changed that question, altered that question, can the subaltern be listened? Ejaz Ahmed gave the theory of Manichaean. I mean, as the Manichaean is present on the clothes shop, that it's standing just like a man and woman wearing beautiful clothes, but when you go close to it, it's presenting the dual nature. I mean, it's not in reality whatever it's trying to pose. So post-colonial literature, according to Ejaz Ahmed, is beautiful and attractive just like a Manichaean, but it is not in reality a life literature according to him. Ashcroft presents the concept of appropriateness and negation regarding the language. Ashcroft is the person who has written key concepts of post-colonial literature. So he's made a lot of work, not only appropriateness, but number of other theories have been written by him. Fanon, one of the persons from Africa, he's a great critic and theorist. He has also talked about, and as the book is suggesting, Black Skin, White Mask, and the other books he's written, it means that he is trying to say that the people who are black, they are trying to become white. Not in the sense as girls try to become white, but in the sense that they're trying to behave like the white people. I mean, they are trying to adopt the attitude and behavior of the white people, although they are black. So therefore, originality is damaged and the whiteness is covering the people everywhere. So that is the type of attitude Fanon has tried to bring for us. J.C. Young is the very person who defines postcolonialism in a very beautiful way. He explains in a great way what postcolonialism is going to be. So if you want to really understand what is postcolonialism, we need to read J.C. Young. Anya Luma, for example, gives the concept that, by the way, this word is Anya Luma, not Kuma. So just by the typo mistake, the K should be replaced with L, and therefore it should be read as Luma, Anya Luma. Anya Luma says that in the word, oppression is not finished, and wherever oppression is there, postcolonialism is there. And that is why postcolonialism, according to her, is still going on. Some of the important post-colonial writers are also there. Chinua Achebe, for example, from Africa, he has written Things Fall Apart, very famous novel that is the type of starter of the post-colonial literatures. Ahmad Ali, for example, is from India, Pakistan, Indo-Pak subcontinent. We claim him to be a Pakistani writer. He wrote a beautiful novel, Twilight in Delhi. Arundhati Roy is an Indian writer. Things, God of Small Things, one of the novels he has written, and now also the Ministry of Utmost Happiness she has written. So in that way, she is the representative of the people who are small things or minorities, etc. Khashwant Singh is one of the brilliant writers from India. Train to Pakistan is, a very famous book by him, which is on partition theme. And then Muhsin Hamid, one of the proliferating writers of Pakistan. Pakistani post-colonial literature is proliferating because of him, because 4 or 5 novels he has written, they have acclaimed him a very good place in the world, and so Pakistani literature has also gained the same place. The Reluctant Fundamentalist, for example, was his first novel, and after that, he's been writing like Matsmoke and next novel, Getting Filthy Rich in Rising Asia, possibly, and then Exit West is the latest one, completed in 2017. Kamila Shamsi, equally important. I think that Cartography was the start, and ultimately, no, we have the homeboy that is possibly her now. And Gugi and then Walcott, these are the African people. Ben Akri again. I don't remember at this moment exactly the type of represented books which they have written, but then the students can Google their names and find out what important books they have written. So after knowing about the writers, let's talk about the themes. Most of the time, the themes are feminism, indigenousness, cultural aspects, nationalism, history, freedom, slavery, and racialism. These are some of the important themes that the postcolonial writers use. Feminism, for example, is a post-colonial feminism, a little bit different from the Western feminism, but still it is related to the women, their rights and their struggles. And indigenous people, how do they survive and struggle under the colonial environment? Their struggle, their representation of the indigenous people or the local people has been done by the people or the writers of post-colonial literature. Cultural aspect is the most important aspect of the writings of post-colonial writers because they try to show the culture from where they belong to and show also the kind of competition of the culture they belong to and the culture they have to live in. Nationalism, again, the love for one's own country, and that is posed somewhere in post-colonial literature. Post-colonial literature also talk about the history of the places from where they have come. And the desire of freedom, that is also the part of the post-colonial literatures. Some of the post-colonial literatures, especially about the Black African American, for example, colored people, talk about the slavery and racialism above all is a very kind of important aspect of the literature. And here we end, students, and I think we have got a fair idea about the introduction to post-colonial literature. I hope you have understood something. Further clarification would come with the passage of time. After reading the notes, for example, and when you work on that as well. I hope you have understood something, a little bit of that I can claim you have understood. And if you like it, do not hesitate to click on the subscribe button of my YouTube channel so that you can get every notification. All right, so that's it from me for this day. Hopefully seeing you in some next video on the similar type of topic. Okay, then bye bye.